But in most people's eyes, it was the curtain raiser for the derby that is coming up this weekend in the Nedbank Cup Final down at Moses Mabhida, of course. And looking back at the game over the weekend, the derby in the Betway Premiership, beginning with Orlando Pirates, what can we say that they learned from that game ahead of the final?
I think one thing, right, because Rele scored the winner, great. But what I'm learning from that particular strike is that keep shooting at Uvuma. There will be some mistakes. There will be some errant goalkeeping where shots that are not supposed to go in will have a chance. And so, number one, keep shooting, pepper that goal. Helen Mbata shoot, Nkota shoot. Obviously, keep it on target, guys. But if you do that enough times, keep buying that ticket. Obviously, that's the general idea in football that you'll win the lottery at some point. But with Vuma, the odds are stacked slightly in your favor. I think that's one thing because I don't think they're going to change keepers, right? So just keep putting him under pressure. I think they'll crack. Number two, what Pirates have learned as well is that they need to have some sort of connector. And it looked like there was a Tito-sized hole because in the first half, we didn't see Rele. Kota was limited in terms of where he could play because I think also because Bradley Cross did put in a shift, right? But I think there was too much of a space between Trentambata, Makaula, and the forward line. And so if they fix those kind of things, they'll be fine. And I think what happened in the second half with Hoto going back to his wing-back position, I think what they've learned is that don't go with Marco and Shandu in a big game yet, again, because one is rusty and the other one is limited in terms of the options that you've had the entire season versus Hoto and Van Rooyen. Those guys, if they're fit and available, go with that pairing. Number two, I think you might just need three at the back again. Because Tapelo Tloki in those big spaces, and if you turn him and he has to chase, you have to fix that problem because I think Chiefs obviously didn't utilize Dupree well when he came on, but had they been playing like they did in the first half with the Dupree on the pitch, I think they were going to cook. I think they were going to look very good because they dominated that game in the first half, particularly in the middle of the park, and they had ascendancy. So if you think about that and then you play balls over the top, I think then you have Pirates running. So Pirates have to fix that positioning or where to place their personnel at the back and cover. He was brilliant in terms of aerial presence, in terms of marshalling the defense, and when he has to then defend deep. But when he's up there with the high line, they get exposed quite easily. So I think it's unlikely that Umbasa will have a poor game yet again where he's losing a lot of those balls. I think he'll have to step up. At least I think so. He must, right? So I think put in a Tito. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but I think if Chiefs have something similar to what they had in the first half, you want to fix that in terms of don't allow them to get time on the ball very often because I do imagine Claire is going to be playing. So it might be more of that if we don't cut it out. So you want to have a Tito. Second option is Dlamini starting. What we also learned is that when you cut off Rele's supply, you do affect Pirates' chemistry and movement in the final third. So you have to put him in a situation where he does get more of the ball. And as I think you'll probably expand Jeguti in the 10 role, it didn't work out for him. So if you get him out wide and you actually use the wide channels and Rele is on the ball, then he brings Hotu into play. He brings Nkota into play. He brings Mahopa into play. So everyone gets to play. So when you think about the chance that Nkota created for Mahopa to score, it was the only chance in the entire half because there was no Rele on the ball. So things that Pirates have learned is that one, like I listed, right? Get Rele more on the ball, fix your defensive pairings, and shoot because at some point you will win that lottery.
Yeah, I think what Orlando Pirates would have learned, what we learned about Orlando Pirates is that Rele isn't a 10, at least not in the system of Orlando Pirates. And it's actually interesting to call Tito a 10, right? Because of just how far he roams within the Orlando Pirates midfield. I was speaking to a former footballer, right? And he's not a fan of the way that Tito plays the 10 because when you are that far deep, as sometimes you see Tito going to receive the ball for Orlando Pirates, then you are missing where we are expecting you to be. But my opinion is that for Orlando Pirates, it's very different. And one of the things that masks what Orlando Pirates are missing in their midfield regarding their ability with the ball is when Tito is there. Because when Tito is able to drop so deep that he's receiving from the keeper or his centre backs, and that is something then that Makaula or Mbata doesn't have to worry about. Like in first phase, you've got Tito, and then by the time the ball does build up towards that final phase, he's there as well, more often than not. And the thing is, if he's not playing, then the person who's essentially playing in his position was Urele, right? And Rele doesn't play like that. He doesn't roam as much as Tito does. And when he's in that central space, we didn't see him much in that first half or before you had Ukabelo Dlamini come in and relieve him of his position in the central areas where he could then go wide, because he's much better coming from wide and going central. And I think I can't speak on behalf of Rivero, because I mean he knows way more football than I do. But if I'm speaking for myself, that's why I thought that he'd cut it as a 10. Two reasons. Number one, because people who've seen him in development say that he came up as a 10. But secondly, because of what you've seen him do in central areas. I mean, he scores the winning goal from the box, right, in a more central area. But he was coming from wide. He was operating now where he was getting the ball in wide areas, in bigger spaces. And he's able to, I feel like he's able to see a greater picture of the field. There's a ball that he played where he played it over the top of the defense to Unkot. And he actually, multiple times, where he was now wide, and I feel like his periphery was much more increased, that he could see the runs made by Unkot. He could see the link-up play that Makgopo wanted to have with him, and he was so much more effective when he was relieved of playing the 10 and he was then an inverted winger. So that's
what I think it is, right? I'm sorry to cut you off. In terms of the profile of Urele at 10, I think it's because when you think about that particular pass that you're referring to, right? And the number of times that Nkota had the ball, and we're thinking to ourselves, cut back, Rele is there. Is that because he's so alive to opportunities and chances that he does drift into the central places where he's there to create a pass or he's there to shoot. So I think that's why maybe he might be miscast in terms of whenever he's there, he's doing something. So he might start out wide, but even in the build-up play, he then sees that there's a space, and so he occupies that space. So I think that's where the confusion might be.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That because you see him do damage from central areas, you have the idea that, just start him there. Whereas that's a totally different component to he comes into the area having come from out wide. I think then the other thing, Chuck, for me is Orlando Pirates must believe that they're a better team than Kaizer Chiefs. Kaizer Chiefs are where they are in the league because the league does not lie, because they are that much far worse than Orlando Pirates. And I know a derby presents a different case altogether, and a cup final for that matter, right? But I feel as though from the first half where Kaizer Chiefs were the better side than Orlando Pirates, and coming into the second half when Pirates then did play on the front foot, Kaizer Chiefs didn't really have a response for that. And once Pirates got on top, when they arrested the momentum from Kaizer Chiefs, they never relinquished it. And even though Orlando Pirates were missing players, it really did seem at the end of the 90 that this was the better team. This is the better team. Even as Orlando Pirates finished with 6 players from development, they still are better coached. They still have greater experience than Kaizer Chiefs. They still know how to win. And I feel as though what happened there is they remembered, because that's not something that they learned about themselves. They are a champion side. I think they just remembered. If I recall the words Zaga Tito in the 3-2, right, where he says Abeko Labantu, it's because very quickly there's a realization that yes, big game, maybe nerves, and the derby presents its own unique properties, but if we're just talking football, it's very clear that we are the better team. We have the greater chemistry. We have the results in our history that speak of the fact that we are made for the bigger moments, far greater than the team that we are playing. And so going into the final, I think coming in there with the idea that we are champions, we're defending this title, we're going for a third one, should not be pressure, but should be an opportunity for them to also then say amongst themselves, the team that we're playing, they've never been here. They haven't been here. This is new for them. The pressure that comes with not only being in a cup final, but the narrative of trying to end a 10-year drought without any silverware. They are the fish out of water in this big shark tank, and we are the sharks here. And I think that's what you saw in the second half. And Orlando Pirates can take that into the cup final as well. That they are the A side, as would be said in boxing, that they are the ones who are going to dictate terms. And if they do that, and if they ask Kaizer Chiefs to chase them, they should come out on top in that cup final.